Hey, everybody. I just want to spend a couple minutes quickly reviewing our lesson today on historical thinking and the process that you should use when looking at both primary and secondary sources. So, we're going to go again through the steps that you should take. So, the first step you should take is sourcing. To look at where a source came from in order to try to understand it. This is done prior to actually reading the document. Historians, when they source a document, they look at who the author is, when was it created, why was it created, and what is the purpose of the document. It gives you a sense of what the document is before you read it. All right. It's kind of like looking at the cover of a book before you actually read the book. When sourcing a document, historians are looking to make predictions about what they might read in the document. They're looking for the possibility of any bias from the author, and they're looking to see if the source is reliable or not. Can they trust the author of the source? So here's an example. This is a primary source. It's a transcript of President Andrew Jackson's message to Congress on the Indian removal in 1830. So right away, based on the title, you know that it's a message, a speech from Andrew Jackson, who was the president of the United States at the time. It was to Congress. It was on the idea of the Indian removal, and it was in the year of 1830. So it gives you an idea of what this document is about, and it also tells you if there may or may not be bias in this document, right? What is Andrew Jackson's perspective on the Indian removal? Since he wanted it to go through, he will come in this document. You would predict he would be all a positive mindset, a positive perspective on the Indian removal. So step 2. So we're talking about the Indian removal, and we looked at Andrew Jackson's message. Okay, we looked at the title and the author and so on. So the step 2 is looking at the context. Context is to locate the document in the time and place it was created. Seeking out what other events were going on that might have influenced the document. So what was going on in the United States at the time that could influence this message to Congress by President Jackson? Historians look for when and where the document was created, what was going on before, during, and after it was created, and what else was going on in the state or in the country or across the globe at the time. What events were happening? When finding context to a source, when looking at the source in a big picture, historians love to use maps, graphs, census data, and timelines. So if you look at this map of the Indian removal in 1830, you can see that these are where the Indian lands were before relocation, and they all had to move from their homes into the Indian Territory, which is now Oklahoma. So this gives a little bit more context of what the Indian removal is, why President Jackson may have pushed for it, and also why people might have been against it. It puts it in its proper context. The next step is to look at multiple sources on the same topic before drawing any conclusions. To consider what other sources on the event or topic say. This is to determine where sources may agree or disagree. After reading, historians ask, what do other sources say about the event? So what do other sources say about the Indian removal besides the words of President Jackson? What do other politicians say? What did the Native Americans say? What does art say? There's so many sources you can look at. Do these sources agree or disagree with the statements of President Jackson? What sources are most trustworthy? And what other sources might there be to gain further knowledge on the topic? All right, you want to use a variety of types of sources to get the best picture of history that you can, all right, because you are historians. So you don't want to just look at one document to get the total picture of history. You want to look at multiple and kind of see them as puzzle pieces to the big puzzle, to the big picture. So you want to use photos and letters and encyclopedias and journals and everything to come up with the story of history. So, for example, this is Davy Crockett, his letter on the removal of the Cherokees in 1834. So 4 years after President Jackson's message to Congress, and in this letter, Davy Crockett is just saying his opposition to the removal of the Cherokees, how he is against it, and how he feared that if Martin Van Buren became president after Jackson, that the Indian removal would continue. All right, so here's just another. It's a source that disagrees with the viewpoint of President Jackson. So you want to look again at multiple sources to get the big picture. And the final step, close reading. To look at the claims the author is making and whether or not we can trust these claims. So you're looking closely to the words that the author is putting on the page, or the images in the photograph. You're looking at, it very closely. So what claims does the author make? What evidence does the author use to support the claim? And can we trust what the author is saying? Why or why not? So we're looking very closely at the document for the final step. All right, we're re-looking at it. So when close reading, historians often try to pick out words, phrases, images, and symbols that might be used to try and persuade the audience to believe the claim the author is making. You're looking for those persuasive phrases. You're looking at the bias within a document. And so we look back at Andrew Jackson's message. And in his message, this is how he describes Native Americans. This is a question that he poses to Congress. What good man would prefer a country covered with forests and ranged by a few thousand savages to our extensive republic? So he's basically saying, why would you prefer a country and he calls the Native Americans savages, all right? Very persuasive. It puts fear into the minds of the people that these Native Americans would attack them and take away their cities and towns and destroy their farms, and that the Republic or the United States needs to expand and grow. Okay, very persuasive language. Watch the bias that he is using. It's not straight facts. He is trying to persuade Congress, kind of scare Congress into the Indian Removal Act. Okay, so this is just a quick review of how to properly examine a primary and secondary source. Remember, step 1, sourcing. Look at, this is prior to reading. Step 2, look at the context. Look at the big picture around the document. Step 3, look for other documents on the same topic that may agree and disagree with the actual document and what the document says. And the final step, close reading. Look closely at the words the author uses. Look out for bias. and persuasive language. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped review this concept that we will be using throughout the year.